So now that that's out of the way, welcome. Hi, my name's Ella. I am 17 years old and from San Diego, California. If you don't already know me, I am head of Project Aquascope, and today is week 1 of our summer seminar series. In just a few minutes, we're going to hear from some amazing female youth entrepreneurs who have made real impact in regards to the environment and sustainability, and have impacted the world. So now some of my team members are going to introduce themselves.
Hi, I'm Vivian and I'm 17.
Hi, I'm Richard and I'm 16.
Hi, I'm Kaylee. I'm 16 years old.
Hi, I'm Sambi Nagram and I'm 16 years old.
Awesome. So Project Aquascope's mission is to provide greater accessibility to STEM education and to inspire a spirit of environmental sustainability among youth, empowering them to become change makers in their own communities. Before we begin, we wanted to give a special shout out to a local organization, Sustainable San Diego, for helping us outreach for this event. More on their organization is posted on our website, so we'll tell you that at the end as well. Now Richard's going to go over the schedule for today really briefly, and then we'll get into it.
So right now we're going over the welcome. We're just introducing ourselves, and then from 9:45 to 10:15 we'll have Saanya present. From 11:20 to 11:50 we'll have Dania present, and then 10:55 to 11 we'll have closing statements. And each there'll be the final 10 minutes of each presentation will be Q&A, so you can ask questions to our wonderful presenters.
Now Sambi's gonna introduce our first speaker.
So before Saanya begins her presentation, I'll be detailing some of her amazing work in the field. Saanya Bhargava is an environmental activist and social influencer looking to get involved in important issues like gender equality, environmentalism, and social good. She is the founder of Impact.gravitas, which is a youth organization focused on increasing awareness and developing collaborative solutions to plastic pollution. She has spoken at TEDx Youth at Austin and has featured in Teen Vogue's 21 and Under 21st class of 2017. She has been named as 4th most engaging teen activist on Instagram by Gramlist's 19 Under 19 award, and is currently a rising sophomore at Rice University. Saanya, feel free to share your screen.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. Oh, okay. I think you need to stop sharing your screen so I can share mine. Awesome. Okay. Cool. How is everybody doing today? Y'all can give a nod, do some Zoom reactions. Amazing, amazing. Okay. Perfect. Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for having me here today. I am so excited. And thank you to Project Aquascope for bringing us all together in a virtual setting. Right now I'm in Austin, Texas, and it's a really weird time, but we all can connect from so many different places. So feel free to put in the chat where you're from. I'd love to know. And we can get started here. And everybody can see my screen, right? We're all good? Okay, perfect. So let me introduce myself. Who is the person sitting here today? So my name is Saanya Bhargava. I'm a rising sophomore at Rice University. I'm majoring in cognitive science and minoring in entrepreneurship. I consider myself an advocate, one for environmental justice. I've done a lot of work in environmental activism, specifically for plastic pollution. And 2, I'm a gender equality activist as well. I've faced gender discrimination firsthand, so whenever I'm in an organization, making sure that the young women in my group are felt heard as well as empowered and are qualified. And then lastly, advocating for STEM education. I've done a lot of work going to legislators, talking about STEM education and getting funding for STEM education in public schools as well. And then lastly, I'm an entrepreneur. I founded Impact.gravitas, a youth organization focused on increasing awareness and developing solutions for plastic pollution. So now you know a little bit more about me. I'm going to go through kind of the flow of things for today. First, I'm going to talk about my journey and how did I even get here. Two, overcoming obstacles, because trust me, this did not come without challenges. Third, how you can get involved in plastic pollution as well as some of the other issues I was talking about. And lastly, I'm going to leave you today with my 3 pieces of advice for being a great entrepreneur and activist. So let's get into it. How did I even get here? What is my journey like being an environmental activist? I don't even know how I got here, but let's break it down. So it all started in the 3rd grade with me and my chaotic 3rd grade class. My 3rd grade teacher, Mrs. Burnett, was teaching us, and she had a lesson on the Great Pacific Garbage Patch and how it was 3 times the size of Texas, which like amazed me in my 3rd grade mind, because I was like, oh my gosh, Texas is huge. And I'm from Texas. So this is great. Like, I mean, it's not great, but like that is huge and it's a big impact. And you may be thinking, well, weren't you in Texas at the time? You're from Austin. And that was actually not the case. I spent most of my childhood overseas. I lived in Shanghai and Singapore. And so that's me. So living overseas gave us some great opportunities, me and my family, to travel a lot. And so we went to beautiful places like Kalimjia Forest Park in Malaysia and New Zealand and things like that, where natural beauty is there. But we also went to developing countries where people were living in their own trash. Waterways were filled with pollution. So at a very young age, I got to see that firsthand, and it really stuck with me. So fast forward to my freshman year of high school, we moved back to Austin, and I had such a great opportunity to intern at Dell Technologies on an oceans plastic project. And so what that project was about is basically pinpointing places in the world where plastic pollution was most prevalent. And then after that, figuring out using those locations to source ocean plastic to put in Dell packaging. So at the end of this project, Dell actually uses and currently uses a 25% blend of ocean-bound plastic in their packaging. So that was a really cool project to work on and made a lot of impact. So that was me and some of the team members that I worked with. And then around a year later, at the end of my sophomore year of high school, I had the opportunity to speak at a South by Southwest panel talking about my experience in STEM advocacy as well as my work at Dell. And before that panel, I decided that I was going to launch a youth organization focused on plastic pollution and how youth can be involved in it. So to make sure I actually would do it, I stood there on that stage and I was like, and today I'm launching Impact.gravitas, to make sure that I was going to actually do it. So that was me committing to myself, like, I've said it in front of a bunch of people, so let's get committed to it and let's do it. So coming into my junior year, that's exactly what I did. I brought Impact Gravitas to my high school, and got friends and friends of friends to join who are really interested in environmental impact. And we met once a week, focusing on, campaigns that we could do and doing cool things for our school, focused on plastic pollution. Now, after all of this, at the end of my junior year, I had an amazing opportunity to talk at TEDx Youth Austin, where I gave a TED Talk about my journey and everything that was involved in it, as well as educating the public about plastic pollution and how individuals can be a part of that solution. It's not a big person thing. You can do things on an individual level. So that is when I really felt like an environmental activist. I was like, wow, I'm like standing in front of all these people and I'm like telling people about it. So that's when I really felt that I am educated enough to be able to talk to people about it. And so now that I've come into college, I just finished my first year, I feel like I am invested and passionate about a lot of things. So instead of just being an environmental activist, I'm an activist and an entrepreneur. That's what I consider myself now. And what does that really mean? For me, it's using my voice. That is an important thing for me using my voice to talk about things that I'm passionate about. So that's me. 2 years ago, I spoke on behalf of the UN on World Environment Day, talking about how the EU should eliminate plastic straws in general. So using my voice to talk about things that I'm passionate about. Second is helping others find their voice. That has been a really big, important thing to me as well. So this is me. I go to a thing every year called Ocean Heroes Boot Camp, where I help people my age and younger figure out campaigns for how to eliminate plastic pollution in their communities. So that's a really big, important thing for me. I've gone through it, and I know a lot of younger people are also going through it. So I want to help them do that, given my expertise in the field. And then lastly, building a community of like-minded people who are thinking and passionate about the same things. So this is me and my sister on a Sustainable Ocean Alliance call. We are, chapter presidents, as Impact.gravitas is a chapter of the Sustainable Ocean Alliance. And on that call, there were like 200 to 300 people interested in ocean health. And so it was just an amazing call. So building community and being part of communities that are passionate, using my voice and helping others find theirs. That is kind of what I'm doing right now. And that's where I'm at. So a lot of this did not come without obstacles. Everybody faces challenges, and I'm going to share some of those with you today. One was being taken seriously as a young woman. So in that picture, that was me, my freshman year of high school. I know, so young. And I was on a robotics team all 4 years of high school. And I look really happy in that picture, but for most of my freshman year on that team, I was not. And mainly that was because I was put on a team with 10 boys and 2 girls, one of which was me. And we were put on a team where the boys didn't let us touch the robot. I'm not even joking. I decorated the robot cart. That was my job. Like, it was not even funny. And so it was it was a hard experience for me, because I was like, this is not fun. Like, I'm not learning. I'm literally decorating a cart. Like, this is not fun. And, I'm not learning anything. And so I'm going to break this young woman part into 2 parts. One is being a woman and finding your advocates, people who are there to support you and advocate you regardless of the situation. So for me, this was finding girls who were older than me on the varsity team who had gone through the same experiences and becoming friends with them, and having them support me. Talking to some of the higher up coaches and who would speak on behalf of me and my qualifications and expertise, as well as my parents, huge advocates in making sure that I was okay during this time. And so finding your advocates is huge for being a woman today. And I'm going to break this down into young. Use young to your advantage. Being young, a lot of people will think, oh, you're not qualified enough to do things. You don't have the experience that I have. But when you're young and talking about issues like climate change, pollution, gender equality, this is your future, and you have a say in your future. And that's a really, really big thing that you can capitalize on. Think of Greta Thunberg. She is young, and she's using that to capitalize on her campaign. So be young. I mean, you don't control that, but you're young, so you can capitalize on that when trying to persuade somebody as to why you should be doing something or qualified enough to do something. Second is being overwhelmed with the breadth of the issue. So when I was coming in, starting Impact Gravitas, I was like, okay, we're going to do stuff for plastic pollution. We're going to, but there's a billion different ways that you can approach the problem. It's legislation, advocacy. You can focus on styrofoam, plastic bags, and there's so many different avenues you can go down. And so that was a really big challenge for me. I was overwhelmed, really. And so I found that if you pick one thing and run with it, you can have a huge impact. So I've seen that people who focus on one little sliver of the issue and do it really well, do it so much better than people who have their hands in so many different pies. So for Impact Gravitas, what we focused on, the one and solely one thing we focused on was straws, and more straws. That's all we did for a couple months, because actually a whole year, because we really saw that if we focused on this one thing that was really manageable for us, we could do a lot with it. So we went to restaurants and we talked about how they could switch out plastic straws for eco-friendly alternatives. And we even went so far to develop our own metal straws with, our logo on it, 3 different colors, and educating our community about how easy it was to ditch a plastic straw or just use an eco-friendly alternative. So that is what we focused on, and we did that really well. And then lastly is being afraid to make mistakes. So this is something that I learned very recently. I'm not even kidding, like maybe 3 weeks ago. So this is me and my best friend, Miles. We are thinking of starting a business in college, while we're in college. And right now we're in the initial stages of trying to figure out, what are some pain points that some of the students are having? So over the last 2 or 3 months, we've been, going through the steps of, we've been interviewing 50 different people across the Rice University campus over Zoom and talking about the issues and stuff like that. But just a couple weeks ago, we realized that we weren't actually making any progress on our business. We were just focused so much on finding the right problem to solve that we were so afraid to make a mistake the first time around. And so just recently, we decided to just start and show up. And that is half the battle. Just pick a problem and go for it. Because at the end of the day, if you don't even get started, how are you going to even, reach your goal of, for us, starting a business on campus if you don't even start? And so that's a big issue that I've seen. And take ownership of what you've done after you do that. So if you make a mistake the first time, take ownership of it. See what you did bad or what you could have improved on the first time around and figure out how you can do it well the second time around. But don't be afraid to be perfect don't be afraid to be perfect the first time around, because that's not how life works. Awesome. So here I'm going to tell you a little bit more about how you can get involved with plastic pollution, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about what we did at Impact Gravitas at our school that you can implement at your own schools as well. So here are some of the things that we did at our high school when I was there a year ago, or 2 years ago at this point. One was making art out of plastic waste from the school itself. So we call this our Playing with Plastic campaign. And what we did is over 5 days at the school, we collected these plastic bottles that were being placed in each of the classrooms, in the trash bins and stuff like that. And we collected 180 bottles from the students' trash. And we cleaned it up. Of course, it was disgusting, but we cleaned it up and we strung it up on this plastic jellyfish. And we hung it up on the biggest tree in school. And it was a really cool way to have people interact with their own trash, but have it be in a way that's presented in a really cool way and allow people to be educated about, this is what plastic pollution is. You are a part of it, and here's how you can, cut down on your plastic waste. So that was a really cool initiative that we did. A second initiative that we did was a sustainable waste initiative. So at our school, we had a compost bin, we had a recycling bin, and we had a normal trash bin. Except people had no idea what to put put what. You might as well call all 3 of them the trash bin. And so we were like, this is like a really big issue because we have opportunities to make a really good impact here. And so we're like, okay, let's decorate or let's paint these bins a different color so they're very distinct. And then we put signs on them that showed what you can put where. And we really wanted to see, would this even make an impact? So I was in AP Stats at the time, and I was like, why don't we do a study? Why don't we see if this is significant or not? And so we literally went through the trash in the cafeteria after school one day, and we looked at all the pieces of trash and we said, okay, this is how many were not put in the right place. This is how many that were. We did the calculations. We implemented these trash cans in the cafeteria, And then we did the same thing right after of going through the trash. And we found that it was actually significantly, like there was a significant impact. And so that was a really cool initiative to not only use plastic pollution as a initiative, but also use what we were learning in class to apply it to something else. So that was really cool. And then lastly, our strawless campaign that I was talking to you about earlier, going to restaurants and seeing how they can use eco-friendly alternatives instead of plastic straws, as well as saying like, hey, you don't need to give a straw in the drinks every time you give it to them. You can just give it to them without a straw. And if somebody asks, you have a paper straw in hand to give to them. So that was a really cool experience too for pitching and things like that. So if you're interested in any of these, please feel free to contact me and I can help you get those started if you would like to do those at your school as well. We have a website as well, impact.gravitas.org, where all of this is kind of laid out. We also have some really cool stuff that we've done on there. Our shop, our social media, everything is on there. And so feel free to check that out. And then we have an Instagram, a Twitter, a Facebook. But if you were to follow one of them, follow our Instagram. We have really cool stuff on there like educational posts, as well as opportunities for campaigns that you can get involved in. So for example, every July, we do a hashtag Plastic Free July challenge where we have people post pictures and videos about how they're participating in Plastic Free July. And then at the end of the month, we give prizes out for like the most creative or the people who stuck with it the most over the month. And so we have a lot of campaigns like that, as well as educational posts. So if you were to follow one, follow this one, and we also know that a lot of people use Instagram more than anything else. So got to keep your audience in mind there. And yeah, so as promised, I'm going to leave you with my 3 pieces of advice that you can get to be a great activist and entrepreneur. 1, a collective voice is extremely powerful. Don't try to go into all of this just you. It is extremely difficult to have a positive impact when it's just you going in and doing stuff. I dragged people along with me. I didn't drag them. They wanted to do it, but it takes asking people. You may think like, oh, I'm the only one who will even want to do this. Who will want to like meet after school and like go through the trash? And let me tell you, that's where we had the most turnout, was people going through the trash. And so if you just ask, you have no idea how many people will show up. So just ask and bring a lot of people along with you on the way. 2, use your platforms and be really loud. As young people, we have free access to Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. We can make a YouTube channel. We can make a Wix site for free. Like, you can make a blog for free. Use these platforms to advocate about things you care about, because you can make a really big impact on a large scale for no monetary value. It doesn't cost you anything. So why wouldn't you use those things? And lastly, embrace the hustle. Let me tell you, a lot of this stuff takes a lot of work and it takes a lot of dedication, but we are young and doing a lot of things are low risk, but they can be extremely high reward. So work hard, lean into the fact that it is going to be challenging, but you're going to learn a lot and have a lot of fun doing this kind of stuff, no matter what the issue is. So thank you so much for having me talk to you guys today. I just want to let you know, feel free to contact me for any advice or questions that you have. I'd be happy to set up a Zoom call or anything. My social media is right there if you want to DM me, as well as our Impact Gravitas email, where I will be checking regularly as well. So thank you guys so much for having me. And I will open it up to any questions that you guys have.
Yes, awesome. We'll be moving into Q&A, so everyone can just either unmic or ask questions in the chat. Okay, so we have a question from Jana E. What tips do you give us to balance between schoolwork and the things you were doing for sustainability, etc.?
So it's really about time blocking, I think. So when I was in high school, not only are you doing a full school day of work, but I did a lot of this stuff after school. So I would set up meetings, you know, I'd ask around and ask people, you know, what is the best day that works for you? And I would set up, okay, we're just meeting for 30 minutes after school today. And that's it. And 30 minutes is not a long time. If we had something bigger coming up, okay, we'll meet for an hour and that's it. Like, don't go over, don't go under. I mean, if you go under, that's fine. But like, making sure you time block, make it really specific so you can plan around like, oh, this is when I'm going to do my homework. And a lot of times, like, I would get up early in the morning for high school, and do my homework then, or finish my homework then before going to school. And so that's kind of how, it's basically what works best for you, but making sure you set specific meeting times. Don't make them wishy-washy, make them very specific, and know exactly what you're going to do during those meeting times, so you don't waste any time when you're in it. And then figure out when you're going to do your homework, whether that means staying up late or doing it early in the morning.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you so much for the presentation. And did you sometimes feel that focusing much more on the projects you're doing for sustainability and so on, are kind of affecting your grades in school badly because you're focusing on it more?
It can be the case. For me, I tried to balance it as much as possible. And I knew that if my grades were going down during this time period, I'd figure out, okay, maybe I need to scale back on some of the stuff that I'm doing, some of the projects I'm doing outside of school. Or, but for me, it was really, my mindset was that I'm making an impact in my school, and I'm making an impact in my community. And that's very important to me. And so if my grades came down from like, you know, an A+ to an A-, I was like, that's fine. You know, like, it really depends on what your threshold is. And if you go below what you want, it's totally fine to cut down on the extracurricular stuff, because school is the most important thing.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Our next question is from Sammy Chai. Can you tell me a little bit about your experiences in Singapore related to your journey in environmental advocacy, and also Shanghai?
Yeah, for sure. So I was born here in Austin, and I moved to Shanghai for 3 years, and then Singapore for 7. So that kind of gives you a scope. I was pretty young. I did 1st through 7th grade in Singapore, so that's when I had most of my childhood. But when it comes to living in Singapore, like, if you guys have ever seen Crazy Rich Asians, like, it's not too different from that. It's very similar to that, but there are a lot of things that I think get pushed under the rug. Like, I just remember one of my friends lived next to the beach, and she said, like, we can't go in because when you go in, your skin will turn purple because of the oil that's in the ocean. And so when you're in countries like that, you have to be hyper focused on what is actually happening. And so that was really eye-opening for me, one. And but living in Shanghai and Singapore, in that Southeast Asian kind of corridor, you're able to travel to a lot of countries like Vietnam, Thailand, Indonesia, which is what we did. And in those countries, some of them, you know, India, Indonesia, are some of the biggest polluters that we see right now in the world for plastic. And so, you know, being able to see that and have people like go to countries and seeing people live in, you know, literally their own trash, and they're using their own trash as like ways to eat food and things like. And so that was a big thing for me and my sister, who's also involved in stuff like this. And so that was my experience living in those 2 countries, and also getting a very global perspective. I went to international schools where kids were from all over the place. And so also getting that global perspective was a really cool thing to have at a young age.
Wonderful. Okay, so our next question is, how did you organize the separate bins in your school? Who did you contact? Who empties the extra bins after school? And how can we guarantee people use the right bins? I want to start separating bins in my school and don't know where to start. Great presentation. It helped me a lot.
Awesome. Thank you. And okay, so we already had compost, recycling, and trash in our cafeteria. Like those were already bins available. And I live in Austin, so a lot of our legislation is focused around eco-friendly stuff like that. But basically what I did was making sure that people can differentiate between those three bins, those three different types of bins. 2, looking at the most common types of trash that was used in my cafeteria. So my cafeteria had styrofoam plates and trays. Like they had like cutlery, like plastic cutlery. They also had like little like paper, like things you would get out of a baseball game or something. And so looking at the most common pieces of trash, organizing them on a poster and literally sticking that poster on the trash can so people knew what can go in here. And I did a lot of research also as like, what are the materials that you can recycle? What materials can't you recycle? Looking at what was in the cafeteria and seeing, okay, what fits where. And then in terms of who I contacted, I used my APES teacher. I don't know if you have AP Environmental Science at your school or a similar teacher like that at your schools. But she really helped me get in contact with people at the school, like the janitors and people who focus on the waste part of the school, and saying like, hey, can we have the permission to go through these trash bags, at the end of the school day today? And I would just email them and they'd be like, yeah, sure, whatever, I'll keep the door unlocked and you just close it after school ends. And so getting teachers to help you is also a really good idea. In terms of doing all of these initiatives, because they have connections with like people at the school and like the janitor staff and things like that. And so that's a really, really good resource for you to use as well.
Okay, our next question is, how do you keep the momentum going? Did you pass on the project to current students in your former high school? How do you make sure those students carry on all the hard work you did? Thank you.
Yeah, that was a big thing for me because, it was like a baby that you start and then you have to pass it on after you go to college. And so my sister and I work very closely. She's a rising junior in high school. And so a lot of the people who were in the organization were in my class. And so they had graduated with me as well. And so we had no underclassmen in the organization, which was something that I would consider doing if you were to do it. That's one thing that I would change, is having more underclassmen involved. But as she's going into her junior year, she's going to restart up Impact.gravitas at our high school and keep the momentum going, as well as bring her own, flair into the things and initiatives that she'd want to do, especially given like now COVID is here. How do you do initiatives when people aren't at school anymore? So that's who I passed my Impact Gravitas onto. But also, now that I've graduated, I actually, I still work on Impact Gravitas. I have a vice president who's living in Baltimore, or she goes to school in Baltimore. She lives in Florida. And we work together. We Zoom every once in a while to talk about campaigns that we want to do and things for the upcoming school year, especially with COVID. And so that's how I keep the momentum rolling. I brought somebody on who is also really passionate about the things that, the same things that I am. And so we FaceTime, we Zoom, and we figure out, okay, what can we do next? And so that's how you keep the momentum rolling, I think, after high school. And it is perfectly fine to get, busy once you get to college and you experience new things. And so, that's how I've been keeping it going.
Okay, and this one's from Akshat. The less developed countries you travel to probably had worse plastic pollution as compared to where you are right now.
Yep.
Those places need a lot more awareness. How do you recommend we approach those places? Because most people barely care about plastic sustainability.
Yeah, that's a huge thing. Because I guess here in the US, we have some sort of awareness as to what, like, the effects of trash and the effects of pollution, where in other countries, that's not the norm. It's something I've been thinking about for a while as to how do you reach those countries. And I think it's finding one person in that country who you can communicate with virtually and figure out how they can do initiatives like this at their schools. So the Ocean Heroes Bootcamp gave me a network to a global network of people who are, of students, of kids who are in other countries who are trying to do the same thing in their countries where, plastic pollution is the norm, right? And so I would say there are a lot of forums and networks, and organizations that are out there that I'm involved in that have people who are in those countries who are trying to figure out how to do those things in their countries as well. And so if you would like to contact me, I can get you in touch with some people who are in those countries, and maybe a network who can give you access to people in those countries. And so you can talk and figure out how you can do those things in other countries as well.
Okay, so next we have, how did you advocate for the strawless campaign at your school?
Okay, so my school actually already had like compostable straws when I was there, which was very convenient. The thing to make sure of is that compostable can be in two ways. So if you guys have ever seen like the green stripe cups, I don't know if you've seen those before, but basically those, they say they're compostable, but they're industrially compostable, which means they have to like go to a facility to be composted. You can't just like throw it out in your backyard and it'll like decompose in a couple of days. And so that's how our straws were at my school. Because they were industrially compostable, we were prioritizing at that point, and we said, okay, this is fine for now. But let's go to some more pressing issues, like our restaurants around our schools were straight up just using plastic straws like there was no tomorrow. And so we prioritized that instead of doing a strawless campaign at our school. But I know there are still a lot of schools out there that are using plastic straws. And so I have contact with a paper straw company who is helping people like us, youth, who are trying to make a difference and, eliminate plastic straws. So if you want to get in touch with me, I can also point you towards some people who do paper straws on a bulk scale, like a really large scale.
Awesome. So this question is, do you think it'll be harder to keep these programmings continuing in the age of COVID? And this one's just a question of curiosity. Will you be on campus at Rice in the fall?
Yeah, all good. So yes, the short answer is yes. Like this is going to change the way that COVID is going to change the way we do initiatives like this. Just because if you're at home, then a lot of people are going to be remote. And so figuring out maybe campaigns around how people can be less wasteful at home. Or, catering to a community that is virtual. And so that's going to be a big challenge. They are not going to be the same initiatives. I know I was planning on doing like a movie screening and then have a panel, and like, obviously that's not going to work. Like you can't bring a bunch of people in a room at this point in time. And so it's going to be, for like many things, it's going to be a very creative process to figure out what initiatives we can do at this point. And in terms of whether I'm going back to Rice, I am going back to Rice and living on campus in the fall, but doing so very, very safely.
Awesome. Okay, so this one is from Emmanuel Mutai. What are your thoughts on girls/women in STEM who have accepted, or girls or women who have accepted the notion that STEM subjects are for men and literature is for women?
So opinions on women who think that, or?
Yeah, it says, I'm thinking this question is getting at like, how do you kind of perpetuate a feeling that like STEM is for women as well.
Okay, gotcha. I mean, this is still a frame of thought, you know, but there are, I think, okay, let me think about this real quick, because I would say just if you have an interest in those things, it is going to be, in some places, it is going to be really challenging for women to be, you know, a part of those things. But like, you know, engineering or a robotics team or a, you know, a STEM team of some sort. And it is challenging because women are the minority in those cases. And even in tech field. But I would say that this is we are in a place and time where we can be, as women, be really bold about what we decide to do. We just have to know that coming into those things, we are going to face challenges. So in terms of like advice for like a whole cultural movement about the fact that like women are more literature focused and men are more STEM focused, that takes a whole kind of community to think about and a whole kind of notion to think about. But I'm really about one of individual actions are the way to get there. And so, you know, encouraging your female friends, if you're a male, encouraging your female friends to join, giving them the support you need, because it's not just women supporting women, it's also men supporting women. And allowing women to just come into those fields, knowing that there's going to be challenges, but finding mentors, as I said before, along the way who can help kind of bridge that gap going into it.
Wonderful. Okay, so I think this is going to be one of our last questions. This is from Priyal Jain. She goes, "Thank you for the amazing session. I've learned a lot from your experiences." So it's a couple of questions. One, I come from India and I have seen that most young people think that social media is the only way to bring a change. However, when it comes to working on field, they back out saying that the work will just dirty us and things like that. How do you think I can convince people that this is not true? Two, I totally agree that plastic straws are useless. However, I also feel that paper straws are not needed as well. I mean, I do not understand and find one reason for using any kind of straws. What do you think about this? Three, I live in Haryana and people over here are very, very careless about most things, especially the Sustainable Development Goals. I barely know a few people who even know that the SDGs even exist. I have built a blog website for raising awareness, but I feel like that is just not enough. What do you think I should do as an individual only? Four, how do you keep up with so much happening these days with social issues and programs, etc.? So that's a lot, I guess. Choose one or all of them.
Okay. Okay. In terms of I'm going to go with the social media one first. So the people who say that social media impact is just so little, think about all the movements. You know, you have facts and evidence that show that there have been movements on social media solely for, you think about the hashtag Me Too movement that was on social media. You think about there was a hashtag Stop Sucking movement, which was all about plastic straws. And so there are movements out there that specifically give evidence to the fact that social media has an impact. And so it may be like, just because I think a lot of people think that it doesn't have an impact because it's so easy to post something for free and it takes like 10 seconds. But really don't undermine the fact that you can post and have an impact. And so when you're talking to people who say, oh, that's not really an impact, bring up the evidence. That's how you convince people. Bring up the physical data and facts about, yes, it does actually, like, look at these movements. They arise on social media and look at the impact that they've had. You think of the Black Lives Matter movement and how social media has brought that to light even now. And so those are your facts and evidence at that point. In terms of my opinion on the plastic straw and paper straw stuff, I totally agree. I do not use straws in any way, shape, or form. Like, I think they're pretty useless as well. But I know a lot of people, like, it's just because they've been in our lives for maybe like 50, 60 years at this point. So people, you have to give people a way to like progress from like using a plastic straw to like using nothing at all. You have to realize that not as many people are like as willing to make the switch so dramatically. And so you have to, that like paper straw thing is a good intermediate to getting to no straw at all, if you know what I mean. So that's what it is.
I actually have one last question for you, and then I think we'll finish up Q&A section. Do you think you would have been an environmental activist if you didn't have that time abroad in your early childhood? And how do you think your experience becoming a female environmental entrepreneur would differ if you still lived abroad in one of Southeast Asia?
Oh yeah. I think I still would have been an environmental activist if I had not lived overseas, but I wouldn't have been as informed activist if I did not live overseas. That is because a lot of my experiences in childhood were from living in that overseas experience. So would I still be an environmental activist? I don't know, maybe so, but having that global kind of perspective and experience as a child really solidified that. And I think it makes my foundation a lot better as an activist. And then your second question was about, can you repeat it real quick?
Of course, it's how do you think your experience becoming a female environmental entrepreneur would differ if you lived abroad? Like, would you think it was difficult or, yeah?
Gotcha. I think it would have been definitely different because in Southeast Asian countries, you're near the water. Here, I'm in the middle of Texas, where we're not near water. I mean, the closest thing we have are lakes. And so there, it would have been a lot harder to make people switch their minds about things, just because in Southeast Asia, like Yana said, I think it's the norm, right? It's the norm. And so being here in the US, being an environmental activist, I think a lot more people are willing to come on board, but not to say that there's barriers to entry for that as well. And so it would be different. It would be definitely a different experience, but I think the fundamentals there are pretty much the same.
Okay, so overall, thank you so much for the amazing and very engaging presentation. And also thank you to the audience members who asked lots of wonderful questions and for the detailed and super thorough responses that Saanya gave. If we didn't get to your questions, please definitely reach out to Saanya. She has her contact information right on the screen. And we will also have ways to get involved with her movement and initiative, Impact.gravitas, on our website posted for you all. And also this presentation will be posted on our YouTube channel and the link will all be sent to you. So you can rewatch it and share it with others. So thank you to Saanya for sure and to the audience members. So next up, Kaylee will be introducing our next speaker who is already on the call, Dania.
All right, thank you, Vivian, and thank you, Saanya. So now I'll be introducing Dania Hassan, who is tuning in from Pakistan with us today. And she is a recipient of the U.S. Department of State's Emerging Young Leader Award. She seeks to raise the quality of education throughout Pakistan. In 2016, Dania established an organization called Fun to Learn, through which teams of volunteers conduct extracurricular programming in underprivileged schools. And since then, Dania has launched a leadership campaign and a book donation drive across Karachi, where she trained about 1,500 students from various colleges and universities and collected over 1,500 books for donation. She's also spoken at the U.S. embassies in Islamabad's Young Professionals Conference. And she is the youngest high achiever of the Pakistan-US Alumni Network's hashtag 30 under 30 series. Her special interests include STEM and diplomacy. Dania, now you can go ahead and share your screen with us.
Hi, everyone. First of all, can you all hear me? Okay. Feel free to unmute your mics. I would be more than happy to receive feedback during the presentation as well as after that. I would not want to get questions in the chat. I would rather want to have a live talk if that's fine with Aquascope people. All right. And I am sharing my presentation with you guys now. I hope it's visible as well. Wait, I'll just share my screen, okay? I hope my voice is audible. Can you all see the screen?
Yes.
All right, I think there was a bit of disruptance over here. Am I connected?
Yes, we can hear you. You're good.
All right, perfect. So we are here at Project Aquascope today. As you all know, my name is Dania Hassan. I am 20 years old. I'm from Karachi, Pakistan. I was born and raised here, and currently I am a university student. I study economics at the Institute of Business Administration, Karachi. And come on, I have my introduction in the next slide, so why am I doing this over here? Just before starting, I would like to really thank Project Aquascope for inviting me to this session today, because this is something really huge for me, especially during the quarantine period. You know how it has been crazy for all of us, and I definitely was looking forward to this day, and it had been a busy week for me. I had not been really nice to Vivian or Ella, because I had not been sending my presentation to them in advance. And I just completed my final draft, and now I'm presenting it in front of you. So thank you so much, Project Aquascope, for inviting me. And I am starting my presentation formally now. So I already told you I study at IBA Karachi. I am the founder of Fun to Learn Pakistan. It is a non-profit organization which works for underprivileged children, mostly students, but we also started working in the private sector. I am the only Pakistani female recipient of the Emerging Young Leaders Award, which is an award presented by the US Department of State. I was a summer school scholar at Johns Hopkins University's Discover Hopkins in 2016, back when I was in 10th grade. I also own a freelance photography venture, because I really love photography as a hobby. And I thought of turning it into a small business, because everybody needs cash in college, right? And all of us definitely in college, in high school, all of us get short on cash no matter how much pocket money or monthly allowance we have. So I started this, and then I'm a full-time nerd and a part-time photographer and a full-time foodie as well. I used to make I used to actually post pictures on social media by the name of Food Be Bay. It used to be an Instagram page, and I used to call it my food blog back when I was 16. But then I realized that this is not a blog and I should get over this and make this my photography page. So anyway, this was a bit about me, and I was asked by Aquascope to add my pictures. So I don't know if you can see the cursor or no. So this is me in my raw form in my university. This is me during an exchange program in USA, and this was me during my award program. This is Assistant Secretary Marie Royce, if you guys would know her already. She works with the US Department of State. Anyway, Fun to Learn. How did I start it? I was actually, like I said, I went to Johns Hopkins back when I was ending 10th grade. Okay, so that was for an exchange program. So when I came back from that exchange program, I was given a chance to, and it was actually obligatory for all of us to execute community projects. So I was given some really small funding, and I was given a chance to execute a community project. So my first project was about health and hygiene. I went to a government school. So basically, government schools over here, they're public schools, and a lot of them are really underprivileged. And the reason that for that being is A, the funding, and B, students from really underserved backgrounds, they come to government schools. So I mean, I'm talking about most of them, the majority. So we went to a government school in a slum area. We did a health and hygiene activity where we also took our projector. We did multimedia workshop. We did a multimedia workshop over there. We also did some activities, some really. So basically, there were activities talking about topics which were serious, but the thing is that we knew that the students we had to work with, they were little children, like elementary school children. So how would we get the idea across to them? How would we make them understand that that hygiene is very important, that you need to stay hygienic in order to stay healthy, what germs are, what the whole concept of cleanliness is. So we really needed to get those ideas across, for which we designed different for which we designed different activities. We showed them cartoons. It was a whole interactive day. So that really turned out to be a success, in the sense that the students, they were very happy at the end of the day, and we even gave them little goodie bags. It had their own hygiene kits in it. We gave them toothbrushes, soaps, and I am not even kidding. I think we did this entire project in about $60 or $70, including the transportation, goodie bags, everything. So basically, this was a huge success for us. And then we started on planning another project, and a few months down the line, we did a Go Green project. It was regarding environmental friendliness. And we started doing these little projects. We started doing some donation drives. So Fun to Learn has always been somewhat like, you can say, it has been a freelance community service organization. We're not registered as of yet, because once again, we're all students, and did not really have enough budgets. We are not, we do not have an office. We all operate from my house. We are literally just all over the place. And I think that's one of the cool things about high school and college students organizations, that they're all over the place, and that's where all the fun comes in from. So I've told you most of the things. I will be discussing more about Fun to Learn in the upcoming slides. So here it is. Ella and Vivian asked me to add a lot of pictures. So these are all my volunteers. Some of them are our students, the students we cater to. So over the years, I have had around 60 volunteers, and the team keeps on growing. And most of these people are either my friends or they're from my social circle. And we have done around 30 projects in various areas. And since we're a freelance organization, we might do a project tomorrow and we don't know about it today. So that's how it is. So the projects over the years have been trainings, donations, workshops, and extracurriculars. I'll start with trainings. After my award, basically the Emerging Young Leaders Award, I received a 12-day training in the United States. And what I did was that I reshaped the entire training into short 1 and 2 day trainings. And then I launched a leadership training program across Karachi with the help of the Pakistan US Alumni Network through an alumni small grant. And then we did trainings on leadership and community service. Um, we went to various high schools and colleges, and we told them how we do these things. Pretty much, it was basically, it did have a lot of elements, but it was pretty much like this only. We had a lot of students with us between the ages of, I think, 14 and 19. And over there, we did presentations, we did activities. It was a whole interactive day-long thing. Then we have been doing these workshops in government schools, which I've already mentioned. After the workshops, we realized that the need for extracurriculars is also shown in these students, because they used to lack confidence. Because when you're in a government school or a public school over here, you do not get to indulge in a lot of activities, because education itself is a luxury, right? So we realized that we should give them a chance to get involved in these activities, and we decided to launch our extracurricular branch. After that, we started making the students participate in science fairs. We decided we actually started public speaking competitions, general knowledge competitions. We also started doing a fun day at the end of the school year. So it was a whole new side to Fun to Learn, which we discovered. And lastly, our donation branch, in which we accept donations of books, shoes, cash for a classroom. So basically, we did this project called 50 to Infinity, in which we collected 50 rupees. So basically, a rupee in Pakistan, that's like what, like if I say 50 rupees, that's one third of a dollar in Pakistan. So basically, we collected one third of a dollar from people. From Like one third of a dollar is nothing, you guys know that, right? So we started collecting these one thirds of dollars from people, 50 rupees, and we built an entire classroom out of that from scratch. So that was a big achievement for us. And we also did a socks donation drive during the winters, and also we have been doing coin collection drives. I think there is somebody on the chat, I'm not sure. Ella, is there someone? I'm not sure, I cannot see the chat on my screen right now. Could you please tell me if there's something important?
Oh, Priyal was just telling everyone that 75 rupees is $1.
Okay, thank you so much, Priya. Um, no, it's actually I think in India it is 75 rupees, but in Pakistan it is around 168 rupees so 168 rupees make $1. So that's how it is. And Pakistani currency is dollar is really expensive for us. And yeah, so the coin thing, we started collecting coins as well. And to be honest, nobody really cares about loose change unless you want to put it in a vending machine. And we started collecting all these loose change coins, anything which people wanted to give us, and we did raise a lot of money from that as well. Story time. How did we start? I already told you. Where are we now? Well, that's a question. um so once again, we did take a few months break, right before the horrendous COVID. We took a few months of break, because all of us were transitioning from high school to colleges, a lot of us actually, especially those who were leading the team. So we are now right in front of you. We had a few projects planned, but then the lockdown and everything happened. So now we actually in 2020 we wanted to do a project called Vision 2020, and we wanted to do all of these activities in schools across Karachi. But now we are not doing that because of the COVID situation, and we plan to do it either towards the end of 2020, or when in 2021 schools resume. The challenges we faced, we did face a couple of challenges, not many, to be honest. I'll be very honest. We did not face many challenges. We were encouraged by most of the people over here, even though it is considered that, in South Asia, girls may not get permission to go out much, or they may not get autonomy to make their own decisions or make their own organization or something like that. But we did not face those issues, to be honest. We faced financial issues, which we faced because of the reason that we're not registered, and we're not registered because of the financial issues. So it's kind of like a loop in which we keep on going on and on. But we definitely aim to get in touch with more CSR departments of corporates, and we definitely look forward to come up with new ways to fund our projects. Women in STEM, environmental advocacy, and sustainability. Why we are here today. So I've made like a world population, a US population, and a Pakistani population chart on the screen. And to be honest, so basically the dark pink side is women and the light pink side is men. And you can see on the screen, it is quite evident that women are legit half the world. So basically, if you have something, if you have an entity which is half of your entire entity, how can you say that that person cannot be a part of that entity? How can you exclude that person from that specific entity? Why do we have to say that women in STEM, women in environmental advocacy, women in sustainability? So I really am opposed to this idea that why do we have to use the word women in before these really major topics, because women are a part of this world. They have equal rights to, do all of this, to take part all of this. It is their obligation to take part in all of these things. So why do we always use this? I mean, it has become a stereotype over the years. But once again, like we were talking about, Tanya was talking about paper straws, how we cannot just, transition from plastic straws right on to no straws at all. So I think that's how the stereotype is going to go away over the years. And I think the only reason that we are using these words women in before all of these important topics, this is because in the past, many years ago, many decades ago, there were really less women in these fields. And now that there are more women, and there are more than in some of these fields, there are more than 50% women. So I think eventually we'll have to get rid of these words before the topics we discuss. So Aquascope also asked me to talk about like how I relate to these topics, right? So I chose women in Fun to Learn and women in Emerging Young Leaders Award of my time. Um, so in Fun to Learn, it was started by me. I'm a girl, and almost all of my volunteers are young girls, women. Uh, they are mostly between the ages of, I think my volunteers, they start from the age of 5 and 6, and most of them are between 13 and 19, 13 and 20, something like that. And I have like 4 or 5 boys as volunteers. All the rest are girls, and we have a lot of participation in all girls schools as well, and the participation over there is really enthusiastic. As far as the Emerging Young Leaders Award program was concerned, I had all of these fellows who I've listed on the screen. I had Tanzil with me, who was from Bangladesh. She had been working for refugees with the UNHCR and had been doing a tremendous job. We had AJ, who was a social entrepreneur. She had started her own organization called Social Ben in Turkey. Then we had Nancy, who was working for women's advocacy rights, and she had also written a book about it. Then we had Zina. She was from Iraq, but she had gone to Lithuania for her studies. That's why she was representing that specific country. She was a photojournalist, and she used to go to different places and record experiences. Issa Sipinkosi, she is a lawyer, and she's from South Africa. She is an amazing women's rights advocate, and she had been working with she had been raising her voice regarding all of these things, such as women's hygiene rights, such as women's security protection, etc. Then we had Sarah Abdullah from Iraq. She had been working as a social worker since many years as well, in which she catered to needs of the public, especially people who were underprivileged. And then there was myself. So 7 of us out of 10 were women, and that's a big chunk. But then again, we say women in EYLA. So yeah, that is a factor. Then we had EYLA girls and Jen Austen. So I was really excited about this day because I was accidentally twinning with Michelle Obama's cardboard cutout, and I was like, oh my god, this is the best moment of my life. So for those of you who are in the United States, Jen Austen is basically Girls Empowerment Network. They are based in Austin, and they are doing amazing work. They are an amazing network of really successful women. You should definitely get in touch with them. They will be able to guide you really nicely. Okay. Then we have then we have the topic how I personally relate to the concept. Well, I studied in an all-girls school for about 12 years, from all the way from grade 1 to grade 12. So I I really follow the cis code, as you guys might call it, and I have seen a crazy amount of enthusiasm and talent which needs to be given attention for exploration. All of my volunteers, like I said, most of them are women, and they are truly amazing people. I see this potential in women, which which is great. It's just that sometimes they're unfortunately not given enough opportunities. Next up, who run the world, girls? This was our favorite song when we were in Austin. um so our program manager at EYLA for the Austin part, her name was Emlyn, and we used to blast this song in her car. So yeah, and see, like I said, I've been mentioning women in my social circle, and here you have a proof of how women are really happy on their own and how they have been thriving on their own. And like we've just talked about it, what's up with the stereotype? um Once again, we cannot get rid of the stereotype in a day. I cannot say that we can tomorrow when we wake up we will be free from this entire thing. However, we can definitely take little steps. We can take these small steps, and then we can climb up a huge mountain. That's how we might be able to do things, rather than we for this we can always use different things. We can use participation, we can sit and talk to women about it, we can make more opportunities, more career opportunities for them. We can work for their education, their basic rights. There are many things that we can do about this. It's just that this issue needs a little more this issue really needs a little more attention. That women, they are able and capable of doing everything. It's just that they need to be given the right chance, the right opportunity at the right time. What can we not do? It's just that we can do everything. We can literally do everything. We can, yeah. So I think my entire stance is over the fact that we can do everything. Huh. So coming back to our topic, women in STEM. Where have we not seen women in STEM? If we're just saying that women in STEM did not exist earlier, or women in STEM were not there earlier, then we are completely disregarding the fact that Madame Curie ever worked with radioactivity. If we're talking about environmental advocacy, then we're saying that none of the environmental advocacy programs in the world are being run by women, and that is not true. We have women working for those. When we talk about sustainability, we have women who are working in those in social entrepreneurship positions, such as I mentioned AJ right now, who works for Social Ben. So basically they bring about sustainability by making their own store. They made their own store called Social Ben Store, and they sell stuff from that store, and the profits that they earn, they use it to run their organization. And she's the chairperson of this organization since many years. So she is an example for us, for women working in sustainability. When we talk about youth entrepreneurship, that is also the same example applies here. That entrepreneurship, when you make projects of your own, when like I mentioned, my own organization is an example of youth entrepreneurship. Then we have leadership. So basically we have all of these political leaders, we have have you guys must have seen the Prime Minister of, I think, I'm not sure, but I think it was the Prime Minister of New Zealand who was elected as a woman. I'm not sure. I think I need to Google this right now. I will not be able to continue my presentation. Um, I'm sorry, guys. I will not be able to focus. Yes, it was the Prime Minister of New Zealand who was a woman, and you guys must have heard about Benazir Bhutto. She was the first female prime minister of Pakistan as well, and she was elected multiple times. So basically, we have seen women in leadership positions, in political roles, in advocacy, in campaign leaderships, in all sorts of things, in science, in math. We also had that I do not exactly recall her name, that scientist from NASA who led to the discovery of the first photograph of the black hole. So basically, we have women spread all over the place doing all sorts of amazing things. It's just that we need to create the same opportunities for women around us so that we can make everyone walk on that same path. Advice time. So my first advice to you would be to stay focused on your goal, even if they are all over the place. It does not matter. Sometimes your goals are just spread about the whole place, and you're like, oh my God, how can I do all of this? I am just one person and I have so many goals. But it's okay. Sometimes you might have a nervous breakdown as well. I mean, that happens to me, but that does not mean that one should really stop. Then nobody should be able to stop you from believing in your ideas. You should believe in your ideas. You should know that fine, even if this is a crazy idea, this is my idea, this is my brainchild, and I will definitely go to any extent in order to um, bring this entire thing into place. And thirdly, you need to be yourself in order to bring about a positive change. So basically, the main deal about this is that when you become your own self, you are able to do anything. If you start walking on the footsteps of others, in the sense that you start copying them or imitating them completely in a good way, not in a way that you're cheating, but in a good way, in an inspirational way, then also you need to have this entire factor in which you are there as your own person. You are there as an entire distinct personality. Okay. um and then I did not know that people from across the world were attending this. So for those who are in the US, we're not that far. We are only an email away. We are only one Facebook message away. So you can contact me anytime that you want to. And for those who are across the world, such as somebody mentioned right now that they're from Haryana. So you're right next to me. You are more than welcome to catch a train and come to Pakistan as well. And I would be more than happy to meet you or cater you or mentor you with anything that you want to. Virtual internship. So basically, Fun to Learn has this virtual internship program which goes all around the year. It is a freelance virtual internship in which you can either help us with our outreach department, in which the basically the main task in that is that you will help outreach the organization and its goals to others. And then there's this crowdfunding department where students, they often collect donations. That too, once again, can be in the form of cash or kind or coins or anything. So I do not know how this crowdfunding thing is going to work in the US, because of the fact that we're so far. But definitely we can work something out regarding the outreach as well. And lastly, this is our social media handle. We are Fun to Learn Pakistan on Facebook. I think this is the right handle. I'm not sure, but I think this is the right handle. And we're Fun to Learn Pakistan on Instagram. Okay. So these are the two handles. You guys may take a screenshot of this, or I'll ask Ella and Vivian to send this to you. And then this is my email. You can always drop me an email. I am more than happy if you guys would contact me. And that's it. That's all I had to say for today. I really thank you for listening to me so patiently. I love speaking and I could go on and on for hours, but unfortunately, I have to stop over here. But I'll revert back to the slide where I had written my email address so that you guys can note it down and then we can move on to questions. Is that fine, Ella and Vivian?
Yes, that's perfect. So if anyone wants to drop a couple questions in the chat, we'll read them out, or on mic.
Okay,
You mentioned
it's
one.
okay. I would rather, talk to students on via the mic setting.
Okay, yeah.
Okay. So who wants to go first? Ella, I think you can moderate this session if you don't mind.
Yes, of course. So if anyone wants to unmic or raise their hand, then we can unmic for you.
Yeah, hi. Hi, Dania. That is how you pronounce your name, right?
Yes, it's Dania.
So firstly, I really want to say this, that you're very inspirational, and your story, how you've achieved so many things, how you've influenced the lives of so many people is very motivational and inspiring for me. So we come from, kind of similar backgrounds. So, right. So
Yeah,
I am from a middle
definitely.
class Indian family. And I will not say I am from a family which cannot afford a lot of facilities. My parents have given me everything I need, but I saw that you've been a part of a few exchange programs, and I find them super interesting. I find them super engaging, and I just love to interact with people from around the globe and know their perspectives. But I do not want to do that on and kind of burden my parents on the financial part. So is there, do you have an idea about how we can go about it?
Oh, sure. So thank you so much for your question. So basically, yes, we definitely come from similar backgrounds, not only culturally, the South Asian culture, but also same socio-economic backgrounds. Like I do not like even if my family could afford to send me on an exchange program, I wouldn't want to spend my own money. And to both the exchange programs that I've been to, the first one being the U.S. Summer Sisters Exchange Program, and the second one being the Emerging Young Leaders Award Program. Both of them were completely free. And for the award program, we were selected by our embassies. The Embassy of Islamabad nominated me, and then the US Department of State shortlisted our names. But for the first one, which I mentioned, the Johns Hopkins one, in that you have to basically you have to look out for opportunities. There are many groups on Facebook. There are many websites out there which can help you, look for exchange programs. There are filters which you can put in, such as your nationality, your age, your education, and then they might help you find exchange programs which are free of cost. And definitely, that's a good idea. That's a great idea to explore. Um, and in exchange programs, it is my favorite thing about exchange programs is that you get to meet a lot of people who are not like you get to meet new people, and that's an entire experience in itself, and no amount of money could pay for that experience. So definitely you should try going on websites and searching for exchange programs over there.
Yeah, this was really helpful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So we're nearing the end here, and I want to be respectful of everyone's time, but Dania's email is on the screen, so please, if you have any questions that we didn't get to here today, or you just want to contact her, her email is on the screen, and all the information for any of our speakers will be on our website. And at the end of the summer seminar series, we'll send a comprehensive email of all the resources and ways you can engage with our speakers. So yeah, Vivian, do you want to come in?
Yep, so overall, thank you so much to Dania for such an inspiring presentation, like Priyal said. And again, we'll have all the links to interact with Fun to Learn virtually on our website, as well as this presentation will be on our YouTube channel. And if you have any questions, since it seems like we are kind of running on time and we want to be respectful of everyone's time, but we know you definitely have a lot of questions for Dania, so definitely reach out to her. Her contact information, as seen, is on the slide. And next week, we'll also be hearing from another really amazing youth entrepreneur who is a global team leader, Jeremiah Thuranka. And we're also trying to invite a couple others to learn about how more youth are taking action in the world. And so please stay tuned. As well, in the chat, I sent a link to our website, the page that's for the summer seminar series. So if you haven't registered and you just kind of hopped on this call because you found out through social media, please register to get emails for updates. And again, thank you to Dania so much.
I have another thing to say. I'm extremely apologetic if I went over time. It's just that I had so many questions to cover in the email, and that's why it just, it just got all over the place. I'm really sorry if anybody wanted to work or sleep or, even it is around 11 p.m. at my place. I should head off to bed now. And yeah, it was really nice being here. Thank you so much, Aquascope, for having me.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for staying up. And to everyone, please join us, Dania even, please join us next weekend. We're going to, as Vivian said, have some other great speakers. And yeah, thank you for coming, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.